week 7 of the fantasy baseball season, and here's a few prospects I would have on my watch list and possibly play as to stash. The first prospect, Junior Caminero of the Tampa Bay Rays. So I've been talking about Caminero for weeks now, but surprisingly still not up for this Tampa Bay Ray team. Obviously could use another bat in the lineup. I know he's only 20 years old. Now he's starting to play some second base for this Ray team in AAA's Caminero. We know they got injuries at the position. Well, he's been out for the whole season. They pretty much haven't filled it in. So Caminero already has played some third base and shortstop, with third base being his main position in the minor leagues. But now getting some balls at second. And I think once he gets second base down a little bit in the next couple weeks, he's going to be up. So Caminero, he is owned in 44% of leagues, only out there in 56%. Now with the updated prospect list, he's number 3 overall in the major leagues. And last season, like I said, he had a cup of coffee in the majors with 1 home run, 7 RBIs, with a 235 average and a 278 on base. Well, right now in AAA this season for the Rays, he's having a good year. 7 home runs, 19 RBIs for Caminero, 16 runs scored, 316 batting average, and a 385 on base. So right now he's hitting the baseball well for this Ray team. 98 at bats in AAA, and I think he's ready to go. They're just going to see what he can do with second base and be versatile, where they could play him all over the infield pretty much as Caminero. And this is what this Ray team does. They have a lot of versatile players, and their second baseman right now is Jose Caballero, who's playing decent baseball. He's not hitting for a good average, but he's stealing a lot of bases, he's scoring runs. But obviously when you got the number 3 prospect in the major leagues, you just got to find a way to get his bat in the lineup. So I think Caminero, he'll be up in a couple weeks, even though I thought he would be up now. But with him getting some second base reps, I believe Tampa wants to get him on this roster and get him at second base. Next prospect's James Wood of the Washington Nationals. So James Wood, he's been on this list a few times this season here. Now he's moved up to the number 5 prospect in all Major League Baseball in the latest update. So James Wood, he was one of the big pieces in the Juan Soto deal trade deadlines ago. Obviously the headline is Mackenzie Gore, then CJ Abrams, who's having a solid year, and then James Wood. And Wood, he's been on a tear, especially over the last couple weeks down there in AAA, and he's ready, I think, as well for that team. This national team, they're actually hovering around 500 and got a shot, if they could keep it going for the remainder of the season, to get maybe one of those wild cards on the season. 7 home runs, 25 RBIs, 35 runs scored, 354 average, and a 453 on base. So he's tearing it up. Last 10 games, he's hitting over 500 is James Wood. And he's on another level right now. Like I said, he's moved up the ranking boards for the prospects. He's a big 6'7", 6'8" type of slugger, and he could be a main cornerstone for this national team for many years to come. So right now, he's still available in 81% of fantasy leagues, but he's going to be up sooner than later, I believe. We see guys like Jesse Winker out there starting for this national team, and Jacob Young. Even though Jacob Young, he's been decent base stealer, these guys, they don't obviously have the upside and the potential of a James Wood. I know James Wood, he's still young. He could still do a few more months down there in the minors for all we know. But this national team, if they actually want to compete a little bit and bring up some of the future now, James Wood is the guy, because you'll have a good nucleus over there with Thomas, CJ Abrams, like I mentioned, James Wood. So you'll have some players over there in Washington. But Wood, he's tearing up the minor leagues, and if this pace continues, he's going to force them to call him up, I believe, sooner than later. Next hitter, Ovilas Martinez, Toronto Blue Jays. So Martinez, he's been on this list once before a few weeks ago, but he's number 71 prospect on Major League Baseball. But he's going to be up sooner than later, I believe. He just returned from injury, and he's got good pop, is Martinez. Qualifies at second, short, and third. Good versatility. Available right now in 83% of fantasy leagues. Number 71 prospect in all Major League Baseball, but he's got power for sure for a middle infielder, and we've seen it over the last few seasons. So right now he's in AAA with Toronto. 10 home runs, 31 RBIs, 32 runs scored, a 261 average, and a 346 on base. I believe he's going to be a guy, he's going to be a free swinger kind of in the major leagues a little bit, but with good potential pop, where we've seen already the last 3 seasons for him. 28 and 87 in 2021 in the minors, then 30 and 76 in 2022, and then last season 28 homers, 94 RBIs. So he's gonna show power, but the batting average might not be impressive. Hundreds to mid 200s he's hit is Martinez, a 241 career average in the minor leagues, but they need some power maybe in the middle infield. Guys like George Springer have struggled. Dalton Varsho, he struggled as well for this Toronto Blue Jay team. Turner, he's been up and down so far this season. So I think Martinez get a couple more bats down there for a few more weeks, and he'll be up in the major leagues, already 138 bats in the minor leagues in 37 games. If he could get to that 50-game range, then I think this Blue Jay team's going to call him up. And like I said, he's a middle infielder with pop. The batting average could be a problem, and the strikeout rate. But besides that, if you're looking for some power and a kid with major upside to stash and watch this week here, Martinez is definitely that play. The next play is Jackson Holliday of the Baltimore Orioles. So Jackson Holliday, #1 prospect coming in to the season in all Major League Baseball. Still #1. We know he had a cup of coffee for 10 games, and he just didn't look good at all. No home runs and RBI, 18 strikeouts, an 0.59 average, and 111 on base, so it wasn't good at all for Jackson Holliday. And him and Kobe Mayo are going to be the next call-up, I believe, for the infield for this Baltimore Orioles team. We saw Stowers, he got called up, but these guys, I don't know if there's going to be enough playing time. The only player really I could see the big playing time for is Holliday, obviously. He's a blue chipper and the #1 prospect, even though he did look overmatched in the 10 games he played earlier in the season in the majors. His numbers down there in AAA right now: 3 home runs, 14 RBIs, 3 stolen bases, 31 runs scored, a 277 average, and a great 439 on base. I think he just needs a little more seasoning in AAA. Here's Jackson Holliday, and then he can take the next step, because last season he tore it up in the minor leagues. 12 homers, 75 RBIs, 24 stolen bases, a 323 average, and a 442 on base between 4 different teams in the Baltimore Orioles system. So right now, like I said, he just needs a more season in AAA. I know it was only a 10-game sample size, but this team's so stacked with prospects and players that they could wait on a Holiday. There's no huge need to call him up right away. He's only 20 years old, and I think he'll get things going, and he'll be up most possibly mid-June to July, I believe, is Holiday, and he's available in 53% of fantasy leagues. So I wouldn't get discouraged with his first 10-game sample size in the majors early in the season, because like I said, he's the #1 prospect, and he's only 20 years old, and I think he'll figure things out pretty quickly, and next time he's up could be the last time he's up in the major leagues and not go back down to the minors. So he is definitely a prospect to watch, obviously, with the biggest upside of all these players in the minor league. A fifth and final prospect I would stash or watch this week is Rhett Lauder of the Cincinnati Reds. So Lauder right now, AA, number 25 prospect overall in Major League Baseball, and he's available in 98% of fantasy leagues. He might be towards the latter part of this season coming up, but this Red rotation really isn't that good. I know Frankie Montes, he got off to a good start. He's been struggling of late. You got the youngsters Hunter Green and Lodolo in that rotation, and then pretty much you patched up that back end a little bit. You got Nick Martinez, Graham Mashcraft. I don't think those guys are really potential starters that are going to have much upside like a Rhett Lauder. So Lauder so far this season, 2-1 record, 6 games started, a 2.97 ERA, 30 in the third inning, 34 strikeouts, and opponent's batting average at 212. So Lauder, he's got good stuff. Obviously, they're probably going to want to see him in AAA a little bit before they call him to the majors. But like I said, he's got upside for the back end of that rotation. And this Red team, we know they're just a couple players away of possibly being a real contender. So if you could call up a young pitcher like a Rhett Lauder and he can help you team out in no time, this Red team could do it sooner than later, and his projections are to come up this season. So he's 22 years old, a little bit more seasoning I believe he needs in the minor leagues, but definitely someone to keep an eye on, obviously, is Lauder, because he's got the potential upside. And like I said, this Red rotation there in the youth movement, kind of, with Hunter Green and Lodolo, and if you add Lauder to the mix here, those are 3 guys with great future, so I would keep an eye on them. Available 98% of fantasy leagues. That's a few prospects I look to watch and possibly stash for week 7 of the fantasy baseball season.